Hello my friends and welcome once more to a Red Gaming Tech video of myself, Marta, where as always I'm here with the latest from the tech world in the last 24 or so hours. Today we're going to kick off things with a very interesting report as to the prices of SSDs. So what we have here is a very interesting report from DRAM Exchange, who have said that the NAND flash industry is showing signs of oversupply, and due to this, SSD prices for PC OEMs have dropped drastically, and we can even see a possibility that contract prices for 512GB and 1TB have a chance to creep below 10 cents per gigabyte by the end of the year. And this is part of an ongoing trend as well. The second quarter is actually going to be the sixth quarter running that contract prices for OEMs have declined for SSDs. And we have a bit of a statement here from the DRAM Exchange report, which reads, quote, "Weakened stocking momentum due to a cautious stance of PC, smartphones and servers and data centers OEMs towards end market sales and high inventory levels, leading to an oversupplied NAND flash market price wars by leading SSD suppliers who are keen to get their 64/72 layer stocks off their hands, and the price comparison effect as a result of Intel 3D QLC SSDs." And furthermore, they also said that these market conditions are actually going to cause 512GB SSDs to replace 128GB counterparts as mainstream offerings alongside 250GB SSDs, and they're also expecting PCIe SSDs to reach 50% market penetration, and general SSD adoption rates could reach 65% this year. So essentially, the prices for SSDs from PC OEMs are at their lowest basically ever. So if you're thinking of upgrading your storage, perhaps grabbing yourself an SSD for your operating system, which is the choice for a lot of people, that's how I've got my PC set up personally, I know Paul has as well, this seems like a pretty damn good time to do it, in all honesty, because it's just pretty crazy how cheap they're actually getting, and we don't know, of course, exactly how long this is going to last. So again, if you're waiting on that upgrade, now might be the time to at least think about it. So we have yet more market info next up, and this time is actually regarding AMD. Now this is thanks to a report from Mercury Research, who have basically shared that the CPU market share for AMD has risen in all segments compared to the previous year. Now, the desktop CPU market share, according to this report, grew by 1.3%, and is sitting at 17.1% overall, and the notebook CPU market share increased by 1%, which is at 13.1%. Compared to last year, this is an increase on the desktop side of 4.9% and 5.1% on the notebook side. Now, interestingly, the only market where they did not see an increase was actually servers, and this might come as a little bit of a surprise because the data center area is, of course, where AMD has had a lot of strength versus Intel. But the most interesting thing that you can take away from this is that they've increased their market share despite the fact they did not release any major desktop processor in that quarter. They obviously have the new ones coming mid this year. Now this comes down to various things. Obviously Ryzen is still crushing it. There are obviously various price cuts to the first and second generation. And there's not to mention like bundles and obviously any discounts that specific retailers might be doing and all that sort of thing. So, Ryzen is still a really good get, especially if it's going down in price. There's a lot of people who can't afford to buy these things as they come out into the market. So someone might just now be getting, Zen Plus or even the original Ryzen because, well, they're still good. What can you say? Now, obviously in the notebook segment, they did show Ryzen 3000 at CES, and these are available from various OEMs, so it's only the desktop side of things where obviously we didn't see anything new. The notebook side of things, we saw those Ryzen 3000 CPUs, so a increase there is not expected, but it makes more sense on the surface, I suppose you could say, but it just shows the strength of Ryzen 3000, and it is a pretty big win for AMD. The notebook segment is unsurprisingly rather huge. Now, I would say it's going to be sort of Q2, Q3 that is going to be the most interesting, as of course we are expecting to see 7nm Rome come out, as well as the desktop Ryzen 3000 CPUs. So it's definitely going to be interesting to watch what happens with the next quarterly reports, and of course the quarter following that. So next up we have something with the PlayStation 5. Now, of course, we've been talking an awful lot lately about the PlayStation 5, especially since, of course, we had the reveal of the specifications from Mark Cerny. And the news is not yet done when it comes to Sony's pretty lofty goals for the PlayStation 5. And according to a report from ScreenRant.com, according to a Sony spokesperson who they spoke with, one of the goals that Sony has is to make PS5 loading screens a thing of the past. Obviously, they mean loading screens on PS5 loading screens specifically, of course. But this comment is still rather interesting, as according, again, to this very same spokesperson, the SSD that Mark Cerny mentioned in his interview with Wired could actually load data over 15 times faster than the PS4 Pro. And I do have a direct quote here which reads, quote, "An ultra-high-speed SSD is the key to our next generation. Our vision is to make loading screens a thing of the past, enabling creators to build new and unique gameplay experiences." Now, I'm sure by no means are they going to say officially that there's never going to be a loading screen on the PS5, because that obviously depends on the game. Especially, of course, as we eventually start to approach the end of the life of the PlayStation 5 in however many years that turns out to be. You know, a big open world game might have to have some sort of loading screen some way, you just don't know. But if they at least want to say that it's going to eliminate them almost entirely or really make them as few as possible, that would actually be a pretty big selling point. Now, with various games, the PS4 did have some loading screen problems, and I'm thinking of Bloodborne here, and I'm sure you guys are too. I mean, I love that game to bits, I really do, but it had massive loading screens. Obviously, that was improved later on with a patch, but it still is long. So, obviously, this SSD that Sony's been touting could actually be a pretty huge help, and if we do see those loading screens minimized, that would actually be really nice. Just obviously, as an end user, that would be great, but obviously it'd be great for Sony as well to be able to tout that probably on the box. But with all that said, let's finish things up with a bit of an update on Final Fantasy VII The Remake. So, if you guys haven't seen it, I would highly suggest that you go check it out, because there has been a new trailer release for Final Fantasy VII The Remake, including an actual look at the gameplay, the combat, which of course is going to be their sort of key turning point for a lot of people, I think, because Square have made it plain that they are not just making Final Fantasy VII again, but better looking. They are making changes that are probably going to be a bit controversial to some, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about a bit of a statement from Square Enix, where they basically reiterated that yes, it is still going to be episodic, in case there were any doubts, and the direct quote is, quote, "Stated at the very end of the game will indeed still be split into parts for those who are still doubting, not that I think many were." So, if perhaps you thought they may have changed their mind over development or what have you, no, it's still going to be episodic, and we're most likely going to be seeing the first episode on next-gen consoles, given that we don't even have a vague release window yet, but of course, I could be wrong. They could turn around and be like, hey, the first chapter's out this Christmas, but it's maybe possibly going to be on the PS5 first, or even could just be on both, you know, could be out on the PS4, and then the PS5 when that comes out in, say, October/November, or whenever it ends up releasing. I'm actually looking forward to Final Fantasy VII The Remake, to be honest. It looks pretty good, and the changes, I think, are going to upset some people, but the original game, it still exists, and as long as the heart of the story and all the characters and everything, the world is still there, then I think I'll be able to soldier on. I've never been that really overly keen on a traditional turn-based combat, to be honest. It's not really my thing. I mean, I've played a few Final Fantasy games and I've enjoyed them despite the fact that I don't like turn-based combat very much. So I don't mind losing that, to be honest, but you're probably going to disagree with me there. But of course, you are welcome to let me know your thoughts on not only Final Fantasy VII being episodic, but what you thought of the new trailer as well. I will of course link it in the description below this video. If you wish to give it a watch, I would recommend that you do so. Anyway, that is me done for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.